We spoke about Russia and we came to the point that the monarchy is the best in healthy sense, and now we would be happy to speak about your kingdom.
I have written, for instance, many books where I talk about monarchy also. In my own kingdom, although I'm born in America, but I'm a traditional ruler in Nigeria, an area called Wari. But I'm also connected with traditional rulership in Ghana as well. And so in the area where I have reigned, I try to emphasize creating a community based on love, where people are trying to pursue various types of commodities and material things, but where they're trying to understand the importance of ethics and spirituality. And I have some involvement in many communities around the world where I try to help build up healthy communities. And when I meet different world leaders and diplomats, I talk about healthy nation building.
So if you speak about love, trust and understanding, I suspect that in your kingdom it is no election system.
Oh yes, because there's constant chances for people to have other types of services and work, and many of those type of positions one has to be elected. It's like even in the case of the kings and the chiefs and the queens, there are times when they also have to be, reinstated, or they have to be elected, because when one dies, then there has to be the king makers to decide who will be the next king. In one ancient scripture, it emphasizes that the king should know his citizens as well as a mother knows her children, and should take care of them in that same way.
Your Majesty, how do you feel if you succeeded with this in your kingdom?
Every day is an opportunity to try to improve. In my case, some things are a little difficult because almost every week I'm visiting a different country. But as I said, a good leader should also be a good delegator. It should have people who can take positions to maintain things very nicely. A bad leader wants to control and have power for himself. A good leader wants to empower others.
Who rules the kingdom in your absence?
There are other chiefs. There's many different levels. There's a supreme paramount king.
Yes,
there's other kings and chiefs. Just like I oversee different places in the world, clinics, hospitals, schools, farms. I don't have to physically be in all those places. Now I do give a lot of course workshops and seminars all around the world. Things like leadership, conflict resolution, stress management. Now sometimes I send people to do this, but sometimes I like to physically go and do it myself. My concern is that a good leader makes good leaders. If you want to see the best type of leader, you'll see that that person makes very, very good leaders. Because he's a good leader because he or she does good things for others. See, some leaders, they use people to make things happen. But a good leader makes things happen for the people. People are more important than productions, than material things. We look at the world now, we look at all of the pandemonium, all the crises that's going on. It really has to do with a crisis in leadership. Never was there a time in the world when leadership was more important than it is now, because of the effects of globalization and the centralization of technologies. Decisions that leaders make now affect more people than ever before. But it takes educated people to recognize what constitutes a good leader. Because sometimes people are supporting leaders who are not principle-centered.
What will you do if communists come to your place?
Well, for instance, in the whole continent of Africa and the country of Nigeria, there are political parties, even though there's kings. They kind of go, parallel. You have the elected official political leaders, and then you have the traditional leaders. Just like England, you have an elected leader, and you also have the Queen.
In England, some time ago, particularly England gave a certain example of so-called democratic elections. But it wasn't the good examples, because still we know that many of elections are honest. So is it a good example to follow?
See, it's really not so much important what the political party is. It's a matter of the consciousness of the leaders. If a person has a corrupted consciousness, whether they're communists, whether they are capitalists, whether they are a monarch, they will corrupt the people and do devious things.
still, as far as we know, to get some post in political, for example, one is progressing and getting more and more promotions. So to get some high post, one had to step over some internal good qualities. And as far as we know, many politicians they can't manifest too good qualities and honesty.
This is something that's very unfortunate. That many times someone starts off with good intention, but the arena is so manipulative that the person gets confused or controlled. That's why we said there must be character, competence, compassion, and courage. Courage to not to give in to deviation. And that's why the people must be more aware so that they can protect good leaders. So it goes both ways. The people make the leader, and the leader makes the people. And leaders' public and private life should be quite similar. Sometimes the private life is even more important because it tells you what the person is really thinking and actually really about. It's like one of my books came out during the time that President Clinton, previously president in America, was having this sexual scandal. So the editors of one of the major newspapers in America, Washington Post, asked if I would address this issue of sex and the leadership crisis. And so I was addressing how the leader should actually be more ethical and moral. Private and public life, should be consistent. So one of the things our leaders should be careful about is promiscuous activities and exploitation of money. They must help to encourage family and healthy types of relationships. I was discussing the other day in press conference how we have some of the highest divorce here in Russia in the whole world. I was discussing how every year 14,000 women are actually killed by their husbands or boyfriends here. So there's a need to give more protection to women and to children. When the men are more accountable, then we'll see that the family is stronger and the nation will be stronger. One of the main areas we should address is alcoholism.
So as far we are short of time, the last question, what could you wish to our audience, and as far elections are nearby, so what would you advise to electors in future elections? Whom and what type of leader you would wish for them to choose? And don't you feel that it would be better for Russia to bring back hereditary monarchy?
I think based on so many variables, the best system at this time is actually democracy. This may sound strange for the fact that I'm a monarch, but I think democracy is the less of evils until people are more trained in how to be proper monarchs. But I think there's a need for the visionary leader who is not only addressing the lower needs of the people, but the higher needs also. We have physical presence, we have metaphysical, and we have spiritual essence. So the good leader would also often be aware of how to help the whole person, not just the physical. The leader should be empowered and blessed by God, realizing that he's being watched by the citizens and also by the Lord. And even if the leader is not spiritually inclined, leaders should know that when you help people genuinely, that it comes back to you. Matter of fact, as we enter more and more into the 21st century, leaders who are not empowering their people will have lots and lots of trouble. Because with all of the information now, people are becoming much more sensitive and aware of what is going on. So we hope the people will elect the right kind of leaders who will lead with vision and with wisdom. And then last, this way we can honor healthy unity with diversity. The world is fragmenting too much now by sectarianism between races, political parties, and ethnic groups, and also religions. Like the writings on the planet now is learn to live together as a global community or suffer and die together. So let's live together.
So how is the future of Russia?
I think the future of Russia is caught up with the future of the whole planet. The planet itself is endangered. There's ecological problems, there's the war problems and political problems. There's the problems of disease. And the world now is so interconnected. One place in the world affects another part. So we pray that there is a very bright future. But we don't have a whole lot of time. Half the world is starving from lack of food. Half the world is suffering from lack of proper water. Even in the near future, we're going to have wars just based on water because the water table is going down. More countries are having access to biological and nuclear weapons. And many of the citizens, like the citizens in Russia, they are starving for a chance to live a better life. And so if that's not arranged, there will be bigger problems. So let's say we have confidence that the leaders will step up and do the necessary. We have so many leaders who are in positions who I think will make a nice future. They just have to keep the courage to keep doing the right thing.
We know that even in Russia some people are starving, not only in other parts of the world. But some voices tell that Russia has great future in some special destination. How do you feel about this?
Yes. Well, Russia has always been some type of leader in so many areas. The CIS has always been very powerful. And so being powerful means you can do powerful good things. You can also make powerful mistakes. There's so many international organizations here, so much now international travel. There's so many international organizations that are working in Russia. The leaders themselves are traveling around a lot more to certain other countries. So we hope this will bring together, greater communication, where leaders and nations can learn from each other, can learn good things from each other, and avoid some of the negative things. The future is really in the children. They will be the future leaders, but they will inherit what we leave for them. So we can all guarantee a brighter future by seeing that the children will inherit things that are auspicious, not cities, that are going bankrupt, not places that are just full of disease, not countries that are ready to go to war. So this is our future, based on how we take care of the kids.
Do you think not only monarchy, democracy, rulers, leaders should fight for this, but each and every person has to put some endeavor in this direction?
By all means. We should always try to be the change ourselves that we expect to see within the world. We can easily sit back and complain, but we should be active and make some change. We say there's three types of people. There are those who resent what is going on. They watch what's going on and they complain. There are those who often try to make some change. So these are the inventors. So you can consent and just be a part of the nonsense. You can resent, or you can invent. Better to be creative. How each person try to be creative. See how they can make a better world by how they have better relationships. Every time we have better relationships, we're creating a better world. Every time we're manipulative, exploitive, we're adding to the crisis that the world is experiencing. So we are at a critical time where we're determining what the future of the planet will actually be. Never before has mankind had such ability to annihilate all life on the whole planet. So we have to make the right decisions. That's why people like me now travel around so many places in the world. We find ways to connect different leaders. We find ways to create religious interfaith activities, conferences for religious leaders. We try to give more emphasis to education, health, and welfare. We write special books to give to diplomats and presidents of countries, while we try to manage our own areas and kingdoms also. This is why I'm on this international peace mission of visiting so many countries all around the world. About every 15 seconds or so, one person is murdering another person on this planet. The second largest business in the world is the defense and weapons. The first business, the biggest business in the world, is drugs. So we're a global culture. We're getting more intoxicated while we're perfecting our ability of how to kill each other. Yeah. Want to know more about your future? I look at how you spend your money. So our future is a little scary.
I'm very annoyed with wars in the house in Russia. It's religious wars. And you tell that each and every one can do something for peace in the world. So I'm concerned what I am as an ordinary normal person can do for solution of these problems.
I think you're right. Religious wars can be very dangerous. Religion is a very strong force. If it's used in the right way, it's very helpful. In the wrong way, it can be very, very destructive. But deep philosophy and religion helps us to be able to make changes in the world in a powerful way. Because we try to look at what will bring the greatest good to the greatest number of people. So each of us, as we engage in various activities, we should be thinking, what is the consequence of this activity that I'm doing? So it means just being much more accountable.
If in your kingdom similar problems would start, what you as a leader, what way as a leader you would choose to solve them?
I emphasize 4 basic principles for community. First one, we emphasize whenever there's a conflict, consider yourself to be wrong first. Try to approach it to see what have you done wrong, or what do you need to explain better so there's no conflict. We ask the citizens to interact with each other in such a way that they consider the success of their own existence is based on how they're interacting with another person. Third, we ask them to consider someone who they have the greatest love for. Now try to have that love toward everyone. Last, we ask them to consider the citizens and people they are interacting with may very well be the people who they may also die with, so that they take the associations very seriously. Now this is kind of idealistic, obviously, but success comes from powerful ideas. The idea is to try to create a community of love, compassion, and selflessness. See, love is very powerful. It's not just a sentimental thing. Let me give you an example. When someone does not feel loved, they are 10 times more susceptible to chronic disease. When someone does not feel loved, they are 5 times more likely for premature death. 6 times more susceptible to all kinds of general diseases. So a lack of love brings a lot of problems. As a matter of fact, even a lot of the wars and things that go on is people who are frustrated with their love and do not feel valued. And believe it or not, it starts even before the person is born. It starts at sex life. The consciousness of the man and woman when they come together for sex life has an impact on the kind of entity that takes birth. Once the child is in the womb, even before the child is delivered, the child is picking up things from the environment, and his or her consciousness is being formed. Now this is a little metaphysical, but we can make the world better by having more loving, accountable sex life. Because by the time a child is born, so much of that consciousness and personality is already formed. So many of the crimes and vicious people are people who've had a tremendous trauma experience when they were small, or the way they were brought into this world. Let me share one more metaphysical thought. The issue we're concerned with now is thinking. Because everything has to do with consciousness. Everything that is external is coming from an internal foundation first. The external is the manifestation, but it starts off from internal consciousness. So as we purify our thoughts, then we purify our speech. Then our speech affects our action. Our actions produces our habits. Our habits, then it produces our cultures. So we want to get away from the culture of violence and the culture of drugs. We want to embrace a culture of love, a great culture of sustainability. But we can't do that if we don't change our thoughts. So leaders should help empower people to have very dynamic thoughts, not to be so stagnated by fear and anxiety. They should have trust in the vision of the leader. In this way, they can participate fully in that vision. The World Health Organization has put out a report that a big problem is going to happen after 12 years after now. The way the world is moving is that there's an increase in mental illness. They're saying in about 12 years, one of the greatest world problems is going to be just millions of people suffering with mental illness. That it's going to be worse than heart disease, cancer, etc. But the reason it's increasing mainly is also because people are suffering so much with depression. Depression has to do with too much emphasis on just material things and not enough nourishment for the inner self. We're living for commodities rather than honoring a healthy community.
If you can share, what is the greatest wonder you had in your life?
My life is full of mystery, full of wonders. As a monarch, as a spiritualist, as an international scholar, whether I'm in a palace or in the state house with the president of a country, whether I'm in the woods, in a village with simple people. But I have a very internal life. So even though I'm doing external things, I'm always in meditation and prayer. Like in my books, I write about all kinds of metaphysical things, extraterrestrials, life after death, reincarnation, parapsychological things. So I'm totally convinced that there's so much more to life than just the physical. A lot of my work is in connection with entities that assist me that are not in the physical. It's like angels or archangels or devas and demigods. So this is why I'm also on this kind of mission, because there's also a worry about the future of the planet. So my excitement is to try to give love and receive love, and to try to help people to be more natural, more ethical, and hopefully more transcendental.
Do you feel love of those who are with you? I mean, your citizens?
Constantly. And when I travel, it's like here in Perm, I have many students here. So all over the world, I have people who are like my disciples, and as I meet them, it is very exciting and energizing. Yesterday I had a chance to meet some of them also.
Krishna